Cheers.
Cheers. I'm not even ready for my cheers. I'm opening a bottle here.
You're not ready yet?
No, the thing was, I only had one bottle of whiskey. This is 10 years old. I just opened it.
Oh, great.
I got this from the good people at O'Connor, Achani, and Levy. The law firm used to be in our building. It's the Christmas gift from 10 years ago. Thank you, O'Connor, Achani, and Levy.
There you go.
Are we ready?
We had very little Woodford Reserve left in the freezer. So I was like, tonight's the night to knock it out. So
this is it, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, pal. Oh, you're just gonna go full on shot it. You're just gonna full on shot it. Oh, you got a chaser?
Ooh. Yeah.
Kevin, what a time to come on the show.
Ooh. Hey, Kevin.
Sorry I'm a couple minutes late, but in fairness, you gave me about 12 minutes notice.
I did give you no time.
I don't feel that bad. I don't feel that bad.
I did literally I texted you and was like, hey, you free? So
yeah.
Well, welcome to our new rendition of the show because we could never do this on Fridays. So now we just socially have beverages and talk basketball, and we call it NBA Happy Hour. So it's a lot of fun. Right. So thanks everybody for hanging out. As always, it's been a lot of fun these past couple weeks since we made the switch over. We don't have Parker tonight. So Kevin's filling in and hanging out with us. We're going to talk about the playoffs so far, chop up some of our all-time favorite playoff series and what all. So where do we start? Where do you guys want to start?
I didn't even know we were live yet, so let's start there. I
gave Kevin no prep. And I started without him.
Absolutely no problem. And so I'm just going to go ahead and lead off. And so let's start. I think we should start with the easiest, and that's like the Cavs-Boston, because that one's done and everything. And just kind of, I'll kick it to either one of you, kind of what your thoughts are after that series.
Oh, man, you can even MC better than me now. Gosh. So
let's go.
Yeah. Well, I was there at Game 4. And I'll tell you what, man. I don't say this lightly. I feel like since I've been trying to break up with the Bulls for, I don't know, since Derrick Rose got hurt, I've been like a man without a country where I've been like, I really like this team. Can I join this fan base? And I really like this team. And where's LeBron play right now? And I don't know. I think I can comfortably say they won me over Monday night. The crowd was nuts. The energy in the arena rules. I've said before, it's an incredible place to see an NBA game. But my first time there for a playoff game, I could see myself going full time, just full time Cavalier fan and just suffering.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got a lot of gold and wine in your closet, so you're already invested.
Yeah,
from the old days. So
my wife's family lives up there, so there's that.
Family lives there. You have that connection, so it's easy for you, but it doesn't make it right. I'm gonna say that because it is still Cleveland.
Yeah, it's well, all right. So big picture of this series is that they were outmatched, right? I mean, especially once Mitchell got hurt, there was just no way that they could pull it off. And really, I thought Game 3 until he got hurt, they looked pretty solid. Game 4, I was really impressed how well the Cavs played without him, especially considering they've had no Jared Allen this whole series. And Darius Garland, I guess, wanted to go home early. That's how he played, at least. But Game 5, Evan Mobley's a monster. But it's their second best guy in that game is Marcus Morris. And it's all right, well, yeah, so I guess now with for Boston, it's you kind of have this wait and see, and I don't really think either of these other teams are going to really give them troubles. The Knicks could if they were healthy, but without
they have no one. They have no one.
Yeah,
Jalen team's down.
It's going to be like Jalen Brunson's going to be like Evan Mobley 1-on-5, and
which is fun. It's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun. It's fun to watch him play. But that OG injury, man, that just everything. Mitchell Robinson, all those guys going down. It's been it's just too tough to be able to compete with that. And you got to give Tibbs some serious props for dragging this team up the way he always does this. I mean, he's just great but it's one of those things where you get to the end of the season, all of his players start breaking down one by one because he keeps playing them like 48 minutes a game, and now we have no one.
Now it's Josh Hart's turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, it'll be like a Tuesday in February, and he's like, we got to beat the Hornets by at least 7. We're not going to lose to the Hornets. Let's get rid of all of our efforts in February on a Tuesday, and we'll be fresh for the playoffs. It'll be great. Things will work out every year.
Yeah. And I guess as we kind of move on from the Cavs, like my only thoughts on the Cavs are they're one of the most interesting offseason teams for sure. And we'll be able to talk about that all offseason because they can go in a lot of ways. They could stand pat and grow. They're kind of on the young team progression. You kind of, you are really bad, then you make a play in, then you make a playoffs, and you win a series. But like, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to stay together long enough to make that, next leap. They could try and pivot away from trading any of the top 4 players. I mean, Mitchell seems the most obvious. But anyway, we got plenty of reason to talk off season. Tim, you're right. They're just a little bit outclassed, and Boston's so far head and shoulders above everybody else in the East. And they showed it in this series. And I agree with Sean. I don't see either team of the Pacers, Knicks giving the Celtics a serious challenge, meaning taking it beyond 5 games, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe you guys think differently. I just can't see. Again, I agree. If the Knicks were even somewhat healthy, still had OG, still had Mitchell, then I could see it. But they're running out of bodies, and the Pacers are just too young and not ready.
Yeah, and one higher Halliburton on one leg. It's like they just have too much going against them. Do we want to backtrack for a second? Because we can kind of there's some reports that have been coming out since the elimination of the Cavaliers that have been very hilarious to me. You mentioned they're a team that can go many different directions, and it sounds like the game plan is to re-sign Mitchell, which, if you're asking my honest opinion, is the right game plan. But what I think is really funny is this report that comes out that if the Cavs do in fact re-sign Mitchell, it sounds like there's mutual interest, that Darius Garland is going to ask for a trade. Like, if you're Kobe Altman and you just re-signed Donovan Mitchell and Rich Paul comes in as like, my client wants to leave because you re-signed him, do you think Kobe Altman's going to be like, no, stay, man, come on, we can make this work, like this will be fine? Like, no, he's going to be like, okay, yeah, where you want to go? I'll see if I can make something happen. Like, this isn't like when Kyrie left and it was like, I have no one I can trade him to. I have to trade him to a rival team because it's the best package I can get for him. This is literally like, all right, I guess Wemby will have a point guard in San Antonio. And I'm not trying to talk like Darius Garland's bad. I do actually like him, and his All-Star year, I thought he was super fun to watch play basketball. But there are a lot of irritations with him and how he plays. And his playoff series, he was atrocious. He was so really good. Yeah. The fourth quarter,
so inconsistent. Sorry, Tim, but like just so inconsistent. Can look like a potential All NBA player one day, and then be one of those guys that plays 40 minutes, and you would have thought he played 10 because you didn't notice him that much. So his performance is just all over the map, and that happens sometimes with young players. But like, you would think he'd have developed a little bit more consistency by now.
Yeah, agreed. And then I guess Jared Allen, like, flat out, they were like, hey, you can take this like shot and it's going to numb the pain and you can play. And he was like, no, it's the report too. So it's like, I guess he's not coming back, which might be beneficial.
So they tried to give him a shot like it was Varsity Blues or something. And
basically.
Like, boys, and they were like, come on back. And he was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. And I guess like some player, the reports are that players were like very upset about it. Which I get it, they're out there in the trenches and they don't have their guy, but
sure.
I don't know. Rib injury is a hard thing to play sports with. It affects your breathing, and breathing's pretty important, especially when you're exerting energy like that.
True, especially when you play basketball. Yeah. So I guess like if I'm them and I can re-sign Mitchell, I see what I can do with Mitchell and Mobley, and see what I can build around them. They still have their draft picks for a couple of years. And there's some interesting traps. I mean, they have some really interesting young guys, but no one I'm like, oh man, they have that guy I'm super excited about. Like, we all love Imani Bates, like reading about from high school. Am I like, he's the cornerstone of a future NBA team? No, absolutely not. I think they have the 20th pick in the first round. So, you're looking at guys like Tristan da Silva. I think he could be a really nice name for them there. What the heck? There was the guy I had in mind there. I can't remember now, but I'll have to look at that again. Trenton Flowers. I shot him out because he's my guy. So
I'm definitely not ready for draft prep yet. Like,
I know
he's throwing these names at you. You're like, yeah, maybe.
I know.
But yeah, maybe. Yeah, in 20 they should take him. Yeah, it's cool.
But hey, I mean, we all know obviously that LeBron was also there the night I was there, and it's funny how it's reported it's coincidental, but there's no such thing as coincidental and LeBron James in the same sentence either. So I'm not saying he's going back to Cleveland, but I'm also not saying there wasn't something where he was like scouting either to see if it could be a potential thing if he doesn't go back to Los Angeles, if the coaching search doesn't go his way.
Leverage play.
Exactly.
LeBron loves his leverage plays.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else we want to touch on this? Or I guess we can talk the Celtics side since like they won. There's that whole thing. We already talked about we felt like they're probably going to run through the East. But dude, there was just so many stretches in that series where, like, especially the game I was at, Cleveland would make these runs and they would get back into, like, Max Strus would go nuts for like 2 or 3 minutes where he would go in these runs, but they just always had an answer. Whether it's Tatum, whether it's Brown, obviously those two kind of lead the way, but like Evan Mobley was doing really well in stretches and they were like, Luke Cornett, and you're like, Luke Cornett sucks, and then you're like, oh, I guess he doesn't suck. He sucked for the Bulls, but who didn't? Jimmy Butler.
I don't know. The Celtics are doing what we expected them to do, so I don't have a ton to say. If I was the Celtics, I would put Porzingis on ice and get him ready for the finals because they're not going to need him in the Eastern Conference Finals. Get him ready. You need 5, 6, 7 good games out of him in the finals, and just kind of take care of business from that. I mean, I guess my only other Celtics thought is I think Derek White keeps ascending as far as at least our perspective, our opinions of him, how valuable he is to that team. Like, I just like, calling some guys like winning players. That's a guy you can absolutely win with if he's one of your top 5 guys, basically.
Yeah, you're seeing it now. And the Spurs had a chance to do that and they didn't. But I think they're going to be okay for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, anything going on in the Celtics before we move on?
No, the Celtics are just going to run through the East. There's nothing else to add. And you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. I wish I had more to add on the subject, but
Dude, I know. It's like, so just so I want to preface, if people listen to this and they're not hanging out live, we are recording during Game 6 of Minnesota and Denver. Minnesota's up 17 right now, and to start the second quarter. So please keep it going, Minnesota, so we look smart from last week, because right now we don't look very smart.
Let's go. Let's go.
Is that an homage?
No, I found this off of some news site, and I really like this shirt. It fits properly, and it was only $20 with shipping.
Oh, there you go.
I was like, cheaper. It feels like an homage, but it was cheaper than an homage. So, are we moving on to the series? Are we moving on to the Timberwolves right now? Or are you moving? Where are we going now?
Let's do it.
Okay.
We'll just go around the bracket. Like,
okay.
We'll wrap up with Pacers Knicks because Game 6 is tomorrow. And we'll talk about the 2 West series.
So a full week ago, we were talking sweep.
I never said sweep, first off.
Okay.
But
it was possible.
I was buzzed, but not that buzzed.
It was possible. We were thinking like maybe 4 out of 5.
I thought 6.
Yeah, and here we are, they're at the brink of elimination.
Hoping they force 7.
Trying to win 4 in a row is extremely tough.
Yeah,
it's extremely tough, and I didn't think they'd be able to do this, but they have figured out Minnesota again. Like, here they are. But this is the best team in the world right now, whether you like them or not. And I think I think I think everyone was kind of hoping for something different this year. They had this hope that, Anthony Edwards was going to make this, and he's made a crazy jump. Let's not go ahead and say that he hasn't, but I wouldn't even, I know people are talking, Rudy Gobert can't guard Jokic. Well, yeah, no shit. He can't guard him.
Draymond saying that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he might be one of the best defenders in the world, but you're playing against the best offensive player in the world, and Jokic is just a beast every time he goes out on the floor. He figures it out. He's a smart player, and they have so many weapons on that team. It's so difficult to be able to get over it. It's probably not going to be Minnesota's year, but I think it's been a successful one. This is a huge jump for them. Very, very huge jump.
I think the winner of this series could realistically win the championship, though. Like if Minnesota somehow wins the next two games, I think they'd beat Boston. I think they're so good defensively they could beat Boston.
They would become America's team, and literally half of America would go, Minnesota has a basketball team?
Yeah,
seriously.
I love that America's team is going to feature Rudy Gobert. That's
the guy who brought COVID to basketball.
A great American, Rudy Gobert. No, I agree with everything you're saying, Sean. The two things that stand out for me from the series are Jokic is reaffirming that he is the best player in the world. Like there is no disputing that. And Anthony Edwards is affirming that he is on the cusp, if not already, going to be the best American player in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's, if it doesn't happen in the playoffs, I actually think it'll happen in the Olympics this year. I think he may end up being kind of the alpha dog at times on that team, even with the old guys and everything. But I mean, I think this has been, even when a couple games were close, the most entertaining, best basketball of the playoffs so far. It's just been really, really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the Olympics. I definitely have had that conversation as well. They're playing like Spain. It's like 64-64 in the third quarter, and there needs someone to just step up. And like, I think he's just gonna like tell them, all right, I got it. Like, it's like the passing of the torch from Bird and Magic to Jordan is what this Olympics is going to be for Anthony Edwards, from LeBron and Durant and all those guys. And it's going to be glorious. Yeah, man, I love this series. I think it's been really, really great. I also love Draymond just like full on just ripping into Rudy Gobert like out of the blue because he's so bitter that the Warriors aren't in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but your team sucks. All right,
yeah.
So like, yeah. Let's go to the OKC Dallas series real quick. So Dallas is what? Is it now 3-2 Dallas? I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's
and
right.
Luka has been tremendous. He's also complained every time they're in the half court. It's like he calls a play and complains all in one. It's like really impressive how he does this. Kyrie hasn't necessarily been awesome, but he's had moments where it's like, he'll shoot like 11 for 23, and then he'll have like some crazy under the rim layup like he normally does. And you're like, okay, cool. That's why you want Kyrie in a playoff game. But I also feel like OKC's just their youth is really kind of showing really, really effectively in this series, where and Dallas has been able to take care of it. Shea's been great like always, but I think that the way I kind of describe OKC is like, yeah, it's great they earned the 1 seed. They deserved it. They were awesome this year. They're a lot of fun. They can still win the series. I'm not counting them out by any stretch of the matter. But I just think that they still just need that one dude, like that veteran who can kind of keep the ball rolling. Yes, I've seen the reports about Kevin Durant. Yes, they're hilarious. But I just think they just need that one dude like that. Like they have a bucket getter for sure in Shea, and they have a great, like a big man of the future in Chet. They just need that one shooting vet who's like, guys, don't worry, I got this. And I think that they're going to be, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I think this series is also it's been pretty entertaining. I actually think Luka wasn't that good for the first part of the series. Like he was let his injury affect him, and maybe that was part of the reason. Like you're right. Like the first few games he did nothing but complaining. But like last night, all of a sudden he just stopped complaining. It was really funny, and he played his best game of the series. So I don't know what that's about, but like the wildest thing for me that's coming from this series is the thought that is Kyrie Irving like an amazing teammate all of a sudden? Like he like he's deferring when like he's willingly deferring. He's taking his shots when he should take his shots. He's like counseling the players. He's the one apparently between games 4 and 5 that went to Luka and tried to calm him down. Like, don't focus on the refs, focus on the game kind of thing. And then Luka played his best game in game 5. And so I'm like, is Kyrie Irving, after being like the worst teammate for like 6 years in a row, now a really good teammate? It's kind of wild.
Well, I mean, a couple of years ago, Kevin, there were, there were other players that said that they loved playing with him. I think
sure.
players love playing with him. I think, he's one of those, divisive dudes who's just, he said some weird stuff in the past, and, he is what he is at this point, but, he's still great. He's still great. And here they are, they've got the, the Thunder were the number 2 seed, right?
One
of this. They were the one. They were the one.
Yeah.
They were the 1 seed. So I mean, it's like, and we knew this was going to end up happening, where their youth was going to end up showing. Like they just, outplayed everybody during the season. But when you get to the playoffs, it's a different situation. And Dallas has 2 incredibly great players. I've talked about this earlier in the year. I hate the way this team's constructed, though. Like there's some other pieces this team needs. Like I'm not scared of them if I'm Denver or the Timberwolves if they end up going up against them later on. But I think he's one of those guys that dudes like to play with, and I think it shows some serious growth on his part to be able to get out there and actually make a team better by being a great teammate. And he's done it. And like Tim said, every game he's going to have like one of those classic, crazy layups. He's just like the best finisher ever. So, it's, I didn't think Dallas was going to have, I didn't think they'd be up 3-2 at this point. But the playoffs have been kind of weird this year. Let's be honest.
I legit said at the beginning of the year that I hated this team. Like when we were doing at the beginning of the year, we had an episode we did our favorite over-unders win totals for the season. They were like my favorite under for the West, and I was wrong. Obviously, I'll eat that crow for sure because they've been impressive. Who would have guessed PJ Washington would have stretches where he'd be their best player in this series? Like he's been awesome.
Yeah.
I love PJ Washington, but mainly because it was the first time a scout ever gave me intel was about PJ Washington. So that was like, all right, cool. This is my guy now. Because I know stuff other people don't know. Like him, and then Daniel Gafford, who once again Chicago Bulls drafted and moved on from.
That could be in Chicago.
That could be a draft segment.
Can't help himself, Sean.
I only have enough for one bourbon tonight too, Kevin. So, but I think that I'm really curious to see how Oklahoma City responds in Game 6, because that's this is obviously do or die for them now, and I want to see how they play in a do or die situation. So, and they got a couple days; they don't play till Saturday, but they're on the road, which Kyrie Irving knows all about these teams on the road. He needs to come back from desperation mode, so he's going to do everything he can to stop it. Greatest series ever. But I think it's going to be a really, really fun Game 6 on Saturday night, and I'm really looking forward to see how it pans out. All right, the last quarterfinals series left is Indiana, New York. We've already touched on it a little bit. Talk about a weird, wonky series where 2 teams just look like they just had like war games, and they're just like going out there like hobbling down the court and really physical. And some games are like the Pacers win one game by 40, and then they come back and lose the next game. Jalen Brunson putting the team on his back and doing what he's been doing all year. It's been really awesome. Josh Hart stepping up and being tremendous. I think it's been really, really fun. And I don't necessarily love how either of these teams look at this point. I as much as I've enjoyed the Pacers this year, I kind of just want the Knicks to put them out of their misery tomorrow so we can just go ahead and move on with it.
Yeah, I think the Pacers need to. I mean, this was a good year for them to get back into the playoffs and everything, but I think they have some work to do on this roster. I think, and also Halliburton is hurt. He's, getting Siakam has been huge. I think that was a nice add and everything. But
yeah,
there's a couple other pieces I think that need to move around for this team to. I mean, that's the whole league though. I can say that about any team. Oh, we just added a couple more pieces, but like it's absolutely true for Indiana, and it's been a good year for them. I think especially Halliburton at the beginning of the year. Jesus, I mean, he was just
awesome,
out of control, just out of control. But now he has an NBA champion on his team, and they're making strides. But I'm with you. I think that I would like to see the Knicks go ahead and put them out of their misery. But either way, both of these teams are going to get just absolutely waxed in the next round.
Yes,
absolutely waxed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I said in the chat, I know Tim responded to, like, I have no idea how so many different teams couldn't, like, kind of gave up or moved on from Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. Like, those guys, again, I talked about like winning players earlier. They're so athletic. They care so much on the defense and rebounding. I mean, Josh Hart might be the best rebounder in the league, and he's 6'5". And those guys I think have just been incredible. DiVincenzo is a little streaky with his shooting, but like they've kind of saved their season. And we'll see how many Knicks players can still stand if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I'm with you. I'd kind of like to see. I'm kind of like ready to move the East along and kind of focus on the West until we get to the finals.
Yeah, I agree. Because right now Minnesota is just destroying Denver.
Yeah.
The score right now is 48-26 with 4 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah.
But Denver's been down 20 before in this playoffs and found a way to make it happen. So, I think that it's been a weird playoffs. I wouldn't say it hasn't been entertaining. I've certainly had fun with it. So I'm excited to see how things shake out for sure from there. All right. Let's dive into this. I'm sure we got opinions. Is JJ Redick going to be a good NBA head coach?
No.
Nope.
I think he's very good at what he's doing now, and he should keep doing it.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he's going to talk a big game, and I mean, the talk with him going is he the front runner right now for the Lakers? Is this
that's
like
the
a
report?
True story?
Well, here's the thing.
That's the rumor.
Every report of who they're interviewing is like.
There's
JJ Redick, James Borrego. You're like Chris Quinn.
I seem to remember a time like in the mid 2000s, like when there was a coach opening. There was actually like a carousel of good coaches that were going around and everything, and now it's like we're pulling out play-by-play guys and podcasters and announcers and former players and everything. And not that I don't think that JJ Redick could eventually become a head coach, but I really don't like when they bring in a guy who hasn't been an assistant. Like I truly believe I think you need to be an assistant for a couple years and learn how to be a coach and learn from another coach, and be able to, move up from a role. I just, I don't like when a guy goes from television just to, going into a head coaching role. I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me.
But history proves your point, though, Sean. Like, if you look around at coaches, like almost all of the, I don't know, we could list the top 20, 30 coaches in NBA history. Almost all of them did exactly that progression you said. They were an assistant, at least for a few years, maybe on a few different teams, worked their way up. The majority of the time, like you bring in somebody kind of like outside of coaching to be a head coach, it does not work out. Like, I mean, Steve Nash is the most recent example. And I would argue, like, if anyone is going to come in and be a successful head coach right away, it's Steve Nash. The guy is one of the highest basketball IQs of all time.
Yeah, we said the same thing.
And it didn't. And that didn't work, and that team didn't work for a whole bunch of different reasons. But yeah, I think it's like any job. It's like the world. You put in your dues, you learn, you improve, you develop, and then you get the big promotion, right? I mean, just seems like that's a smart play.
Yeah, I mean, if they could find a way. It's not going to happen because there's no way Steve Ballmer will let him out of this deal to go to the Lakers. But Ty Lue makes a ton of sense. There's just no way the Clippers are going to help the Lakers. Just absolutely no way. Especially going to that new arena. They don't want to like walk into their new building and be like waving the white flag. Especially after the Lakers kick their ass this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I love JJ Redick. I love what he's doing. So of course I'm going to root for him. It's just that. It's a hard thing to do.
You look at someone like LeBron too. Like, so LeBron, he ended up getting drafted before JJ Redick.
Yeah.
Okay. So and this guy,
they were in the same McDonald's All-American game.
Okay. So the guy who rode the bench for 3 years, the first 3 years of his career in Orlando, he eventually ended up carving like some really good roles on some teams. I don't think he got a fair shake in Orlando. And I remember the Bulls threw a bunch of money at him and they matched it. But like I look at that and I'm like, this is who your coach is going to be. It's going to be this guy that's came in after you, that's retired, who has no coaching experience. And coaching the Lakers is a sexy job. Like, that's a sexy ass job. Like, I mean, everybody should want that. But why are we just settling on JJ Redick? Like, why?
LeBron do a podcast together. That's why.
That's not a reason though. And
I agree.
And anytime LeBron starts like, and I'm not, I'm going to go down this road, but like anytime he starts to kind of meddle in any sort of like player movement activity or coaching and stuff, it rarely works out. It rarely works out. And then he, let's say he leaves, and then it's like you have this weird Lakers team that, is, weirdly constructed to begin with, and then you have JJ Redick coaching it. Like, how long is that going to last after he leaves? It's not. Yeah. It's not going to last. He'll be there 2 years, and that's going to be it if he's there.
No, the best thing, and this is not my take, but it's an amazing one, so I'm going to repeat it, that someone said is LeBron should be the player coach. For the sole reason that the press conferences would be amazing, where LeBron, the player, blames LeBron, the coach, for the losses. I sign me up for that.
I hope that like he has like a hat and like a mustache he puts on, and then he'll like move to another chair when he's, performing as coach or player at that point. Like, I don't know what the hell that guy was doing.
That'd be so amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think about Sean's point, and it's a good one, but I'm just like, so obviously the way he built that Cavs team was great. When like he was like, go get J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert, and let's go get Timothy Mozgov. Like, that was great. And of course, getting Anthony Davis. But other than that, it's been like all those like random ass guys that get on the Heat to go play big minutes with them, besides Ray Allen, of course. But it was always like a bit of a nightmare. All right, dudes. So as you know, during the playoffs, we've kind of been more playoff centric focus. So we kind of nixed the starting five segment for a couple months. We'll get back to it in the summer, I'm sure. But I did want to keep the flashback going. A couple weeks ago, we dove into the legend of playoff Rajon Rondo, which was a lot of fun. I have a feeling he might be coming up again in this segment, actually. But we're going to talk about you're sitting at home, you're just getting a little itchy to watch some old basketball, and you pull up the NBA app on your Apple TV or your Roku or your Fire Stick, and you're like, I'm going to go find an old series to watch. I just want to kind of talk about a couple different ones that like we individually love and go through. Kevin, the one you said in the chat is one I was going to bring up, so I'm sure we'll dive into that series because I have a lot of thoughts on it, but just different ones, and we've got some answers from the Patreon as well. First one I want to kind of talk about is one of my all-time favorites is back in the day when the NBA used to do a best of 5 in the first round, which, by the way, they should still do a best of 5 in the first round. And Sean knows where I'm going with this. 1997, the Orlando Magic Miami Heat series. It's Penny's first series without Shaq, and Miami dominates the first 2 games, just like kicks their butt, like destroys them. And it looks like it's just like a it's going to be a sweep. And like, that's when the whole like Penny can't do anything without Shaq conversation comes up. Orlando wins the next 2 games, and Penny's awesome in both those games. Takes it to game 5. Miami ends up winning at the stretch. They were just a better team at the time, but I love that series. It's one of those ones where if you get a chance to go watch the highlights on YouTube, it's definitely worth your time. But it's definitely one of my all-time favorites. Sean, I knew one of the ones you were going to use. We actually also have from one of the Patreons. So I'll go ahead and let you introduce yours, and we'll probably have a lengthy conversation about it because it's an incredible series.
Yep. Oh, you want me to do it right now? Are we going into it?
Unless you have analysis on the Heat and Magic from 1997.
I haven't heard it.
No. No, I don't. So yeah, the series I'm gonna pick, the greatest first round series of all time, probably my favorite playoff series probably ever, and this is coming from my favorite team losing, was the 2009 Bulls Celtics series in the first round.
So good.
Kevin Garnett was famously out during this series, and the Bulls had a chance. It was Derrick Rose's first season. He was a rookie who got his team into the playoffs against a way better team, to be honest with you. And first game scores 36 points, and his playoff debut ties Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record. They're talking to him after the game. Did you know you did that? He's like, yeah, I don't know. And they ended up winning by just 2 points in that game. It ended up getting pushed to 7. I forget how many overtimes there were in this series. There was one that had a 3 overtime game, I believe. And it's just, these games were just, it was just dagger after dagger after dagger. And Ben Gordon was amazing. Ray Allen, I think he scored 51 in one of them. They were just back and forth. And then, of course, the game 6 play where Joakim Noah steals the ball and goes coast to coast for a dunk and gets fouled by Paul Pierce. Probably one of the greatest moments in Chicago Bulls history. And that's weird to say. But, game 7 was not very entertaining, but just an unbelievable series to watch if you were there back in 2009, because it was one of those teams that really, really had a chance and couldn't pull it off, but they were this close. And then Orlando Magic, they did the rest of the NBA a favor the next round and knocked out the Celtics. So
I remember this well. It was the Baby Bulls. As Tim knows, I was living in Chicago at this time, and so it definitely captivated the city. I had to jog my memory as you were talking about it, but I definitely remember this series being crazy. I do remember Ben Gordon. I remember the Bulls, like, before their time, played really small at times. They were playing like Gordon, Heinrich, and Derrick Rose all at the same time, and it ended up being like a mismatch for the Celtics that they kind of took advantage of. I'm looking at the box score, and in game 1, John Salmons played 41 minutes. I lived in Chicago, watched the Bulls a year. I barely remember John Salmons.
John Salmons barely remembers John Salmons. So.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, no, super fun because it's always fun in the playoffs when you get like the young team that's ascending versus the old team that's trying to hang on, right? And that's exactly what this series was. The Celtics are right at the point they were last couple of years. All those guys were together trying to hang on, and I think that's a good call, Sean. It's a really fun series.
Yeah, it is. It's I just actually, funny enough. So the reason I sparked the conversation about Rondo a couple weeks ago was he was just on Jeff Teague's podcast. And this series came up, and he actually said it's his favorite series he ever played in.
Wow.
Just talked about loving the challenge of guarding Rose for 7 games and how he was unlike anyone else he played against. Just talked about just like every game was something fascinating where someone had to step up and make a play for their team to win. And it was just, hearing him talk basketball, like I said a couple weeks ago, I don't want to keep reiterate on it. It's just like awesome. So that was definitely one of my favorites. Kevin.
I got two. Do you want me to do the one from the chat or save that one for last? Because we could talk a lot.
We'll save that one for last because we'll talk
Okay.
a lot about that one.
Okay, so the other one, as I was thinking about it, that stuck out to me, everybody should remember this: 2002 Lakers Kings, the infamous Game 7, Kobe to Shaq like alley oop when they were mortal enemies by that point and everything, and the refereeing this series had everything. Was Brian Donahue was a ref in like 3 of the games, which is amazing to
in hindsight for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think, completely back and forth for a lot of the series. I think Game 6 was the one that was really controversial. It went the Kings up 3-2 and thought they were going to put them away and put the Lakers away, and then the refs kind of called a lot of calls. I think didn't Weber. Yeah, Weber fouled out in not very much time that game, if I remember. But like those teams were, I don't know if they're likable teams, but they were fun to watch at that time. Like, but I mean, the Lakers, for obvious reasons, the Shaq and Kobe thing was obviously always very entertaining to watch for different reasons at times. And then that Kings team was a lot of fun. The Vlade, Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Doug Christie,
Bobby Jackson.
Bobby Jack. Oh, I loved Bobby Jackson. Yeah. It was just a really, really fun team. They played really hard. They really hated the Lakers. And so I just remember that one. When I think of most fun series, what are the ones I made the most point to watch every minute of? And that's like one that sticks out from 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, that in 2000, the Blazers series, the Lakers Blazers series is like one where the Kobe to Shaq alley-oop is just unbelievable. Or Scottie Pippen's the one who steps up to try to stop Kobe.
Yeah.
And so he's just against Phil Jackson at that, and Shaq gets the lob. But that series, obviously everyone remembers Ori shot. And it's it's one of the greatest what ifs in NBA history, because the simple thing is like, what if Vlade just knocks the ball down?
Yeah.
Like, instead of tipping it backwards when he's just trying to get the rebound, what if he just knocks it down? Like, the Kings play the Nets, and do the Nets get a game in that series either? I doubt it.
Yeah. It's just, it was just, that series was just a roller coaster of just play and emotions and weird things happening. And yeah, another one where the Lakers are right towards the end of the Shaq and Kobe thing. I think it was the last title they won was that year. They stayed together a couple years after that, but just really, really fun season. That was still, Kobe was very much still ascending, becoming, or just had become one of the best players in the game. So I just remember that being a lot of fun. And that Lakers team, everybody around Kobe and Shaq, what a random collection of players. Like Rick Fox, Derek Fisher was on that team.
Horace Grant's second year with them.
Robert Horry was there, I believe, at that time. Just total random mix of guys there.
I think Lindsey Hunter was on that team.
Yeah, I think Lindsey was on there. I don't have a whole lot of fond memories of the early 2000s NBA, but those Lakers Kings series I thought were like some of the best of that era. I mean, they were. It's not that I thought them. They really were some of the best of that era. And those were like really the real NBA finals that year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Watching that year after year. And also props to the Kings, because they got rid of Chris Webber at exactly the right moments. Like, I've never seen a team do that before. Like, usually you hold on to him too long, or you trade him way before he ends up becoming a big thing. They traded him right. They were like, well, we're never going to get a better year out of him than we got this year. And they got rid of him. They traded him to Philly, and he was never the same player again. Like, I mean, I props to the Kings. That was, I mean, now the Kings haven't been the same really either. I mean, they got back to the playoffs last year, but they hadn't really been the same since then. But they did go ahead. They knew that, like, that was not, he wasn't going to be able to do what he did the last couple of seasons.
Well, it wasn't only that jump, but they also got him at exactly the right time. They got
They
him right
did.
at the beginning of the prime.
Exactly.
It's like far and away like one of the great like NBA transactions, both when they're coming in and when they're going out all the time. But then like the Kings don't have another one on the top 500 of that list.
So this is what. So it's May 14th, 1998. They made a trade during the playoffs. You were allowed to do that at that time. Anyway, I guess when both teams are eliminated. Traded by the Washington Wizards to the Sacramento Kings for Mitch Richmond and Otis Thorpe. Traded by this in February 2005. Traded by the Sacramento Kings with Matt Barnes and Michael Bradley to the Philadelphia 76ers for Brian Skinner, Kenny Thomas, and Corliss Williamson.
Just unbelievable.
Unreal.
Well, and you think about the trade that the Bullets made that year. I mean, I'm sorry, who did they throw in that? Who did they?
It was just him for Chris Webber for Mitch Richmond and Otis Thorpe.
And Mitch Richmond, like that's another like key thing. Like he was so great for so many years too, and like they got rid of him at exactly the right moment too. So
that was I think the inaugural year of the Wizards. It was like the first year they switched over from the Bullets.
Yep.
So,
he was never the same again either.
Yeah, he really wasn't because he was hurt a lot that year with Sacramento that last year.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, we're gonna get to it because it's just I think the most important NBA Finals of all time. I wouldn't say it's the best played games, but 2016 Cavaliers Warriors 3-1, greatest regular season of all time. LeBron finally fulfills his destiny. Kyrie Irving was one of the most unbelievable clutch shots in NBA history. The games in hindsight are not very good. Like the average margin of victory was 19 points.
Yeah.
But the storylines, the tension, the drama, like LeBron knowing that if he loses this series, he's 2-5 in the finals. The whole sole purpose he went there. They fired David Blatt in the middle of the year.
When they had the #1 record.
Yeah, which I actually just listened to when I was driving back and forth. I listened again to Return of the King, Windhorse book. And there are so many things about David Blatt I forgot, kind of going off topic here, that just make me laugh. So they won their second game his first year, LeBron's return year. It's in Chicago. They beat the Bulls. And Tristan Thompson gives David Blatt the game ball. And so he does interviews like, do you feel like accomplished that you won? You got your first NBA win. He's like, I won so many games in Europe. Like just a total moment to just like be like, yeah, this is an amazing accomplishment. I'm really excited to be here. But it's like, yeah, well, I won in Europe. And then like the next year, right before he gets fired, they play in Chicago again, and this is the game Obama sits at courtside.
Yep, I was there.
Yeah, and he's like, and they asked Blatt, they're like, "Are you how does it feel to see President Obama there?" He's like, in Israel, I played in front of the prime minister all the time, and like when I was in Russia, like, and so like David Blatt was like, David Griffin was like, "F this guy, like he's terrible, like he's not a good PR guy at all."
No.
They said that like he would draw up plays at like in the timeouts and would forget what was going on because he was so nervous that like he'd be like, "All right, JR, you're gonna guard this guy, and JR, you're gonna guard this guy," and like he would literally take his hand and just wipe the board without like a mark without a wipe or anything, and like he was like LeBron would be like, "I got it, dude." Like so to go to where they got through all that stuff is like unbelievable. But where do we start in this series? Because there's so many twists and turns. Like we didn't even mention the fact Kevin Love had a concussion in 2 of those games.
Yeah.
So I'll start like kind of setting it up. So you are right. Average margin was 19, but that's a little bit skewed because games 2 and 3 were both 30+ point wins.
True.
So a lot of the other games were much more competitive. And you are right. This series, it was not the best played basketball of all time, but it had as much intensity as any series because of the stakes, because of this was the all-time best regular season team ever, and versus potentially the best player ever coming back to his hometown, trying to win for win for the city, like he said, and everything. And and it was just like I said, not the best played, but the most intense, and had some of the greatest moments. Like there's 5-6 moments that even casual NBA fans remember from this series. The block, Kyrie shot, Draymond stepping on LeBron, probably a couple others that I'm missing. And
Kevin Love playing defense.
Yes. And I'll pass it to Shauna for this, but I've said to this day, and I'll probably say it for a long time, the LeBron chase down block is the single greatest basketball play I've ever seen. When you factor in the improbability of it, the stakes behind it, the fact that you can go back and watch, he stepped on midcourt and then only needed to take 2 more steps to block a layup. And just the amount of effort he put into that, even like the most athletic guy in the world, literally straining his body to do something like at its peak ability, was just to this day the greatest basketball play I've ever seen.
Well, and also I feel like Iggy, after that block, I don't think he was ever quite the same again.
He wasn't even mad. He was like,
yeah,
but he's like talked about it. He was like, dude, that was incredible. It just happened against me. Like,
yeah. I mean, it. I think it's probably the most iconic moment of the series, by far. Or him pre-game, with the Warrior shirt with the sunglasses on, obviously, which is just a huge meme.
The Undertaker shirt at
Undertaker, yeah, the Ahmed shirt. So, the thing that I remember the most about that series was the final game, and in the final seconds of that game, how it was almost like Golden State's like their whole crowd was in shock. They didn't even know how to react to it. Like, it was like, did that really just happen? Did we just lose? And they were all new Golden State fans. Like, they weren't there during the Chris Mullin days at all. These were like Silicon Valley ended up, kind of adopting them as their team. So he had like all these rich guys there and everything. And it was a totally different crowd from, previous years. But it was just, it kind of reminded me of those Miami Heat, LeBron years where like the fans were just kind of fair weather and like, we're here for, because the team's hot right now and we probably won't be here in a couple years. But that's how I felt that crowd reacted. And LeBron was the first one to react. He's like, all right, we won. We fucking won. Like right here, we did it. And it was just one of those moments where it just felt surreal because you have LeBron and the Cavs going crazy on the floor, no one in the arena going crazy, and then the announcers going crazy. So it was just nothing really, like, it was just such a surreal moment. And, I think if you play it back, every time you play back that stuff, there's music that they probably got behind it and everything, but it felt so bizarre at the moment that it actually happened. And yeah, it's the greatest comeback ever in sports history, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it was to be able to do what they did against probably one of the best, if not the best, regular season team of all. Well, it is the best regular season team of all time, but like one of the best, season teams ever. I mean, they were just so locked in that year, but they coasted, man. And then the Draymond suspension happened. And I mean,
Andrew Bogut gets hurt.
Andrew Bogut got hurt. Yeah. So there were a lot of different factors that ended up going into that, but what a run, man. I mean, if you look back, I mean, that's what we're going to always look back on with LeBron's legacy is that series over anything else. Yeah. I don't think you can look at the Lakers series, the bubble one, or, the two in Miami the same way as that series, because what he did there, he did what he set out to accomplish. He wanted to give that city a championship and wanted to prove Pat Riley wrong because he was like, you're not going to be able to win.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I mean, and the year before, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like the year before when they lost in the NBA finals, I thought that was peak LeBron. Like, I mean, he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible.
Nova got taken out on a stretcher from dehydration.
I mean, I had never seen him play that well. I'd never seen him that locked in as he was the year before. And then the next year he locked in again and did it. So, I mean, yeah, it's It was a wild moment.
The LeBron in that series did two things, just to cap off your point, Sean, that like no one else has ever done. That's why it's iconic. No one else has ever beat a 73 win team in the NBA Finals. And no other basketball player has ever gotten my wife, who like Tim is from Cleveland, to aggressively cheer for basketball. She cares about like zero basketball. And she's like screaming, tears in her eyes when they win that game. And like, that's how much it was just impactful to everyone that was from like the Cleveland area and everything. So it was really awesome.
So there's like 4 or 5 things from that series that I just remember fondly. Besides the things we've talked about. Game 6, they're on ESPN. Craig Sager finally gets to be the sideline reporter for an NBA Finals game. That was like unbelievable that ESPN and TNT made that happen right before he passed. That's like an unbelievable moment. Game 6, J.R. Smith is incredible. Like literally, like part of the reason they go on that huge lead and they go on that big run in the second quarter is J.R. Smith. He's like at times unstoppable. And so when I think too, this is kind of when you start to realize like how good of a coach Ty Lue is, in the sense that if you look at the call for Kyrie's shot, it's just horns. It's all the play is. And JR sets an amazing screen to make the switch happen to where Clay gets off of Kyrie, and it's Curry on him. And Curry tries to switch back, and Clay doesn't move because they're scared of JR. But also, Tristan Thompson's their best rebounder. They take him off the floor for Kyrie's shot to bring Richard Jefferson in, because you can't leave Richard Jefferson alone either.
Yeah.
It's the best X's and O's I've really seen a coach in a game 7 execute, especially a rookie coach who only had the job for half a year.
Yeah.
It's so cool, man. It's awesome. Dude, I could talk about that series like forever.
I know, and I'm thinking of like even more iconic moments. I did remember at first. Remember Steph throwing his mouthpiece and the controversy, like should he get suspended for Game 7?
Ayesha Curry trying to say it was a conspiracy theory, like
yeah. And the thing, I was very much rooting for LeBron in Cleveland, so don't get me wrong, but like I will defend this. I think the right team won. Yes, the right team had to come back from 3-1, but like the Cavs stars played better than the Warrior stars, and that's usually what it comes down to. Like Steph did not have a good series. I was looking at the numbers. He shot 35%, averaged 22 a game. That's not good for Steph. Like Clay averaged under 20 a game, also on 35% shooting. Actually, Draymond was their best player in the series, at least for
Game 7. He's incredible.
Yeah. And so like I understand they came back from 3-1. Draymond got suspended is a big part of why, but I actually really do believe the right team won that series.
Dude, Kevin, I don't know if you were much of a 2K guy in the video game realm, but like Sean and I can attest to like the Cavs were like the LeBron Kyrie era Cavs. You were not allowed to play with that team. They were for the culture. Like they were something, man. Like they were unstoppable in video games, and they were pretty similar to how they played in real life as far as like it felt like a video game at times, but just awesome, man. Just so fun. Like I said, like Kevin, if you want to do something this summer, we just go game by game and do a podcast series on that. I'm down.
I'd be all over it.
I'm sure Nate and Chad would for sure let me do that. So
yeah, I mean, like America's hero Matthew Dellavedova from the year before only played 7 minutes a game in this series after being carried off the floor the year before.
Do you remember who is it? It's Damon Jones signs the last day of the season. So it's like his salary for the year is $8,500.
Okay.
He gets a fine for $9,000 in the playoffs. LeBron was like, "I'll pay your fine," like because who was it? I think it was it was the Hawks series. I think it was someone hit LeBron in the groin, and he checked in and just knocked the guy down. Whoever it was, no, it was Toronto. It was the Toronto series. And so, God, remember like LeBron, like when you would see LeBron play the Raptors, and you're like, no matter how good the Raptors are, he's just gonna murder them.
Yes,
it was like so fun.
Always did. I'm trying to think. I love listening to Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson on their podcast.
Yeah, it's great.
Like when they reference this team and this finals and everything and the inside source. I remember them saying, "Didn't Mo Williams came back to the Cavs on the team and he just disappeared for a month of the season?
Yeah,
and then just showed up one day. Like no one heard from him for a month, and he showed up. And so Ty Lue didn't play him for a long time, but then they actually needed him in the playoffs, and he had a 20-point game in the playoffs. I think it was in the Eastern Conference Finals, if I remember. But yeah, just wild team, huge stakes, so many different like unique players and personalities in the series. I mean, I think that's why I think it's without a doubt the most iconic series of this century. I mean, once you get back into 80s, 90s, you can make a lot of arguments, but I think of this century, it's the most iconic series.
I completely agree. All right, one last point before because like I said, this will end up taking up the whole episode. So Channing Frye got traded to the team at the deadline from Orlando. Had a really rough stretch in Orlando. They were like, we just want to get rid of him. He doesn't work here. Ended up being the greatest thing to happen to that team. So he talks about, I think he talked about it in the podcast a couple times. Like he would be like, he just came in, got everyone's phone number. He was like, "Hey guys, I'm really excited. I'm here. Like this is gonna be a lot of fun." And the team wasn't super tight at the time, is what they kind of the stories are. Apparently, he would just randomly start group texts with people. It'd be like LeBron and Amon Shumpert at like 3:00 in the morning. And he's like, "Are you guys watching the Lakers and the Timberwolves right now?" And they're like, "Channing, what are you doing?" And like, why are we in this group text? And he's like, "I just felt like texting you guys." Like just like was simple, like just total goofball. Like and of course everyone remembers Little Kev, the infamous Tommy Bahama ad that Kevin Love does, and Richard Jefferson rips the ad out of the magazine and carries it around with him. I think he was actually at the parade. They like had him with the trophy. Best parade ever, too, by the way. Like greatest friggin' parade ever.
Best parade ever. Absolutely.
So awesome.
The guy ate horse poop. Like I do remember that YouTube video. Oh my god. Yes, for like wild times. But hey, man, if you're I hope Cincinnati would celebrate like that if we ever got a championship. Dude. Because
if they had won that Super Bowl, I don't want to know if I might not be alive. I don't know what I would have done. Like, all right. So some of the fun ones I want to talk about that were mentioned in the chat. Sydney mentioned Grizzlies Thunder 2011 Western Conference semifinals. I do remember this series because I remember it was kind of like the coming out party of Durant, as far as like I am in the same hemisphere as LeBron, because they're up 2-0 in Game 3, and they're trying to put him away. And I don't know if you guys remember, he just had this like incredible dunk where he's at the top of the key and just drives on Zach Randolph, and right-handed his body's going left, just has this like insane dunk. It's like incredible, and it's one of the freaking best series ever. It's not as good as obviously when they beat the Spurs the next year, but it was pretty awesome. And then Brandon Kamick, good friend Brandon Kamick, who I'm not allowed to criticize anymore because he calls me out on it. So Sean, he said Ghostbusters was not a good movie, and I called him out on it.
Oh, what are we? Not a good movie.
The original or the new one? Was
the original. Okay. Yeah, the original.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot take. But I still love Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just hold a grudge against him for that forever.
Says the guy with the Ghostbusters 2 poster behind him.
Yeah. He said, it's definitely not the best series, but I love the 2004 Pistons beating the Lakers. And that's like the weirdest series of all time.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense of, we know it's the end. Malone, like, all of a sudden gets hurt after he had an awesome playoffs. Gary Payton is, like, guarding Chauncey Billups and struggling at times. And Kobe loses them Game 4. It's like Shaq has, like, 50 points in that game. And, of course, Tayshaun Prince, like, ends up being, like, such a huge, important part of that series. But just, like, the weirdest series ever because... And, of course... the total dark cloud over Kobe Bryant's trial gets over that whole season. So just like, it was the first attempt at a super team that like of this era, and everyone acts like it was like this went horribly wrong, but it's like, no, they went to the finals. It just was not an ideal fit, those four dudes together.
Yeah, it was like I'm refreshing my memory about it. Like I remember ugly offensive basketball.
Yes,
all the way
very
around.
ugly.
And yeah, the Lakers just got punked. Really, I mean, they were just out physical, and it was still in the era where they're allowing tons of contact and not a lot of fouls being drawn, and they just they just got beat up in that series very much.
Gary Payton hated the triangle, like legitimately did not like playing with it at all. And so him and Phil would fight at practice about it. And Phil would be like, I won like 6 championships with this, right? Like, it was awesome. Yeah, dude. But like that Pistons team, like I said, they were just super physical, and like their random role player dudes would just have like big moments. Like Darvin Ham had big moments in that finals of all people. It's because he ended up being the Lakers coach 20 years later and fired. And then, Chauncey Billups and Rip were just, I wouldn't say great, but they were far better than their opponents.
God, Eldon Campbell was still around on that team. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't remember him. And Darko got his ring. I think
Darko got his ring. He checked in he checked in Game 5, and he still had his earrings in because the game was a wrap. Do you have the box scores up now?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Pull up Game 4 and tell me what Kobe's stat line was, because he was atrocious and like cost them that game.
All right. Let me see if I can get the box score of 4. I was looking at the series stats. He averaged like 23 a game for the series. But let me hear. I kind of remember that as well. That he was just he was just awful that game, and that was one of the couple very low scoring games of that.
The last great Shaquille O'Neal game. It's like the last, like, I'm Diesel, I'm the baddest dude in the world game.
Yes. All right. Sorry about that. Very anticlimactic, but now I got it coming up. So Kobe was Shaq had you're remembering right. Shaq had a big game, 36 points, 16 to 21 from the field. Wow. And then Kobe had 20, but on 8 for 25 shooting.
This is where anytime that I hate the GOAT debate, as we know, but when people try to bring Kobe into the conversation and use the Mavs series against LeBron, I use this game.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with saying Kobe's an all-time great. He's not in the
exactly
top 5. Like that's, and I was a huge Kobe guy, but that's just
same.
Yeah.
Same. Got the jersey in the closet. Let's just be realistic here.
Technically, it's better than his 6 for 24 in Game 7 against the Celtics.
That's true. Yeah, that he gets Finals MVP, but that was like the Ron Artest game.
Yeah.
Dude, Ron Artest was so good that series.
Yeah. So good.
Do you remember his press conference when he talked about how he wished he would have won with the Pacers?
No, I don't remember that.
He's like all celebrating. God. He's like, I should have won one with Jermaine and Jamal, and like he's just naming all the just one with the Lakers. Talks about how he wished he won with the Pacers. Like,
do you remember the series before the year prior when he was on the Houston Rockets and he like
fought Kobe?
Yeah, like. But I think Kobe respected him because he was the only person who like stood up to his bullshit, and he was just like, So the next year when he came there, he's like, "That's my guy."
So, did you ever see the Ron Artest documentary on Showtime?
I did not.
It's great.
No,
it's fantastic. So, of course, that conversation comes up about like when the Lakers were considering him, and Kobe was like, "Let me talk to him." So I guess Kobe was like, "Look, dude, Trevor Ariza is my best friend. You're replacing my best friend, so you better come here and act right."
Yeah.
So like that was kind of a typical Kobe moment. Yeah. So that's what I've always loved. But dudes, as always, super fun. We went 8 minutes over time.
Super fun.
But Kevin, thank you for hanging out with us tonight, man. On very short notice.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Like we got a podcast. I'm on it.
Literally sent him a DM in the Slack, was like, "You want to hang out?"
You caught me on the right nights. Not every night I'd be able to do it on 10 minutes notice, but tonight was a good night for it.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it, man. We're going to go and wrap up this week's NBA Happy Hour. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We greatly appreciate it, whether you hung out live on the YouTubes and the Twitters, or you're checking us out later on our apps, our podcast apps of choice. If you get a moment, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It goes a long way to help us with Algae Rhythm, not the villain from Space Jam 2. And of course, don't forget to join the Patreon at patreon.com/RunCincy and come hang out with us July 6th at 12 o'clock at Smoke Justice. We'll be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So on behalf of Sean and Kevin and Parker, this is Tim Daniel. Have a good one, everybody.